Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. Now I'm going to start the recording. This is our red flag workshop. And the idea is we're choosing better, not chasing harder. So spotting red flags before you get hooked. And what I was saying before I remembered to turn on the recording was that some of these red flags you might do. You might be doing these things. And I think notice that, pay attention to it, and that is a wonderful way for you to learn. So, another interesting point about red flags is that what's a red flag for me might not be a red flag for you, right? What I think is like, oh, well, let's cut this relationship off at the hip. You guys might be like, oh, that shit's sexy. I don't mind it. It's not a big deal. Andrea, I just love your nods. I'm going to keep you dead center. I'm like, okay, she thinks I'm doing a good job. I love it, Andrea. Thank you. So, keep in mind that what I say is a red flag is just a version of a red flag. But for you, you're like, meh, take it or leave it. So let's kind of talk about what this workshop's going to cover. We're going to learn how to tell the difference between danger, discomfort, and, kind of the yellow flags. So the next one is not all red flags are the same. There's like little bitty red flags, there's giant red flags. I'm going to go into the 4 types of red flags, so we'll know these. Um, People are still rocking in. Okay. Some point to real harm. There's real red flag danger where you're like, oh shit, like this person could kill me one day. And there's red flags that's just like, oh, that's gonna annoy me forever. So there's layers to it. Not everything has to be um, super intense. Some are just signs of incompatibility, right? We're not all made for each other. Some are nervous system reactions shaped by past experiences. And some are just differences in personality and communication styles. So the purpose is not to like label people good or bad. It's just like that behavior or that pattern doesn't make me feel good, or that behavior or pattern makes me feel bad. So remember, we're also going to be processing in our bodies. Okay, so why does chaos feel like chemistry? I love this. I love this. So, I work as a relationship coach all day, every day. And I have clients come to me all the time that are like, oh God, but it was just so sexy. All the like drama and excitement and confusion. And they think that's like the in love stage, right? That in love. Oh, you're hooked. Are they going to text me? Aren't they going to text me? Right? Some of that like drama can come in from inconsistency. And some of this, hold on, this is super dark. So some of this too is like anxiety feels like attraction because that's keeping your dopamine cycle going and going and going. And it is addicting, right? Like if somebody doesn't text you, you're, oh God. And then they text you and you're like, yes, I'm the most beautiful person in the world. That shit is addicting versus somebody who texts you every day at 5 p.m. You're going to be like, oh, that guy's so boring. Even though the reality is that guy is fucking awesome because he's letting you know every day at 5 p.m. that you are desired. We're going to talk about how just going deeper into that, how the calm feeling feels boring. And we're going to lean more on that in 2 weeks when we do the green flags. So this is going to be the green flags is really interesting, right? It's like training you to be attracted to more subtle clues. And this is a freaking game changer. If you can be attracted to more subtle clues, then you can date anybody, right? Like your world opens up. So this is a really good, interesting question. How many of you have had that relationship where it is like sparks are flying and you can just be into anybody and it's like there's the drama. Is he going to text me? Isn't he? How many of you have had that experience? And did that experience turn out to be like a long-term positive relationship for you? And so, Ashley, I'm just going to have you put it in the chat for now if you want to just chat in there. But just, I mean, I dated this guy that got me Vanessa. I love Vanessa. Yeah, where like guys just like, I was into that. Um, but then like long term, you're like, well, wait a minute, this is inconsistent. Then you start Googling, is this person have the avoidant attachment disorder? Right. So we start to see that. But at first, it's just kind of hot, right? We love that. Okay. So let's get into nervous system red flags. And I'm gonna share my screen. Then Atika, if you will do the document again. Share. Guys, I know that my brain is not firing on all cylinders today, so be nice. My brain is a little overworked. Okay. So nervous system red flags. This happens when your body feels activated, unsafe, hyper focused around someone, even if nothing is obviously bad. So I think that's really interesting that maybe there's nothing obviously bad where I've had clients say this all the time where they're like, I don't know, she's still texting me. We still have a date on Saturday, but like I just feel like a little unsure, a little uncomfortable. And that in and of itself is something that we need to learn how to trust. It's like, yeah, Evangelina says your intuition always knows what's up because it's like, well, you know you better than anybody else. You know what you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate. And so just the fact that like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know, like, I don't know what this is. Just the fact that you don't know what it is a great thing to be aware of. So these don't necessarily mean that the other person is doing something wrong. They just means that your nervous system is responding to something similar. So this could be attached to like a previous attachment wound, a family history. So like if you grew up in a rocky family, this is the kind of thing that you're like, oh, I don't know. This is like how my mom used to treat me. And part of that is attraction because you're raised to believe that that discomfort is love. So we're going to get into that. So some things you might notice with nervous system is you might think you're being anxious. You might be overthinking. How many of you guys have like read a text and then just went over it and over it and over it in your mind and just like repeated it, reread it? What if I did it in this order? What if she meant it like this? So a large part of my job is like going through these messages with people and kind of establishing like, is this a real issue or, am I reading into it with all of my baggage and bullshit? And we do that. We love to overlay our baggage and bullshit onto other people where we're like, I don't know, I'm super nervous. And so you think the other person means they don't like you, even though it's like, wait a minute. And I love to read those. Next is the obsessive thoughts. So how many of you guys have just been like going around and around? Why does she say that? Does she like me? All that stuff. I love obsessive thinking. Waiting for their texts. This one is really interesting now because the dating world has become constant contact. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but now it's all about just like people texting all day long. I actually have a client who FaceTimes his girlfriend all day, like at both their jobs. They work from home, so they just like put their phone in front of their computer and like work looking at each other for 8 hours. That's my nightmare. Like, I don't know. I would probably like pick my nose or he'd hear me fart or like like I don't need somebody looking at me for 8 hours. That's crazy. Um, and I just said that's crazy. And if that's your jam, it's not crazy. It's crazy for me, not for you. Remember, this is about red flags. So that's a red flag for me. But if that's your jam, more power to you. I hope you find the person who loves that because this is not about shaming anybody, but that's just my feeling about it. Okay. How many of you guys feel like you need to earn their attention? Like, oh, I've got to do everything right. I've got to be doing all the dates right. And I feel like you have to earn it. And so it doesn't feel like it's naturally there because you're worthwhile, because you're in a relationship. It's like no matter how long you're still together, you still have to earn it. That to me sticks out for me. If I feel like I have to earn it, if you were my boyfriend and I'm still like working to earn it, that would really signal to me something unsafe is happening, whether or not that person is aware he's doing it or not. That for me is a big one, but those are my issues. So you might feel emotionally off balance, activated, more than grounded. So, pay attention when you're with somebody. This is really important. When you're with somebody, pay attention to your body. And maybe not when you're with somebody, maybe when you're not with somebody. Maybe when they're at work and not texting you, or maybe when they're going out with friends and you haven't heard from them. I think paying attention to these things when you're not with them is when you'll kind of notice. Because when you're with them, oh, the relief, we're together, they approve. So, it's kind of hard to say. Okay, so the next one is the values mismatch. The values mismatch, I think, is really, really important. Now, this isn't a big deal if you're just young, you're just dating, you're just like looking to hook up. Who cares? If you know, just are looking to like bang somebody for a couple of weeks, you don't have to have matching values, right? Like hope they're not kitten killers, but otherwise it doesn't matter. This kind of becomes a bigger deal when you're thinking about long-term relationships, living with each other, getting married. So, it's really about the fundamental things that you both want. So, examples include like, are we going to be monogamous or non-monogamous? Do we want children? That's a big one. Lifestyle priorities, like some people really want to travel and other people just really want to work. Some people don't want to do anything. What's your jam? Money values. Money is a huge topic that people should be talking about. And, some red flags. If you date somebody and you find out they have 15, maxed out credit cards, okay? That might not be somebody you want to tie your future financial life to. Um, I've seen a lot of really, really bad things happen in marriages where people were hiding, spending and credit cards, and then they go to get a divorce, and that person is on the hook for half of like the hundreds of thousands of dollars that that person spent. So money is a big one. Emotional availability. If you're somebody who loves and cares and you want to get to the heart of the matter and you're there talking, but you're with somebody who doesn't really ask you anything, doesn't really care, isn't really invested in your, spirit and how you're feeling about everything, be aware of that. Doesn't mean that you have to do anything, but it's just something to know. And do you want to be kind of like lonely inside of your relationship? The next is the relationship pace. I love relationship pacing. This is a conversation we all should be having pretty early on. Like, what are we looking for? Like, how soon do we want to have sex? How soon do we want to be exclusive? How soon do we want to meet family? How soon do we want to live together? All these things, just having that one conversation is going to save you so much heartache because what feels like, oh, this is my pace, this is going great, might be really freaking the other person out, And so it's just really nice to have these conversations ahead of time. Um, I had I had a guy yesterday say he met a girl and she wanted to take things slow, and then they like spent the whole weekend together. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That like, well, what does take things slow mean to her if like you've already spent 3 nights in a row together? So I thought, that's kind of an interesting conversation. Next would be integrity or honesty. So some people just are like, meh with honesty. It's not the biggest deal. Other people are honest to a fault. And maybe it's like I like you and I want you to be honest with me, but not to the point that like it's pretty brutal every time you're going to tell me something about myself. Because that could be something that's a little hard to hear, especially at the beginning. We want to kind of warm each other up. Okay, so I'm curious in the chat, um, what are some like values that you really need to see in a relationship going forward? What are the things, the values that are so important to you? And I think values is a really, really good conversation to have with yourself. Because if you know your values, you're going to be able to move forward throughout your life, making all the best decisions. I need to do another thing. Sorry. It's so weird when people can draw on this, even though they shouldn't be able to. Okay. So, yeah, these values: consistency, dependable, respect, family oriented. Yes. Right? Do you have the same faith? Is there good communication? This stuff is so important. And this stuff actually should be marking kind of the way you live your life in a sense, the way that you approach friends, the way you approach jobs. Like maybe you might get a job offer and it doesn't fit with your values. You're going to notice some of that misalignment in your body. Cause like, ooh, I've been offered some jobs that like I want because I want money, but I'm like, oh God, like that's not for me. That's not my jam. And inevitably, the job doesn't work out, the relationship doesn't work out. So, it's just really good to know this. Now, the one that I'm really excited to talk about is the behavioral. So let's share this. Okay, so the behavioral red flags. These ones, like I could do, like we're just going to talk a long time about this. This is many hours of work that I do as a coach. So behavior is really interesting. This is what somebody controls. Somebody controls their behavior. That's what they're responsible for. Now, there are traumas and histories and beliefs that are informing their behavior, right? So before I got into coaching and became, this amazing person that has my shit together, I had a lot of things that like I was just running on my patterns and the bullshit that my family taught me. And I didn't know that I was so weird. I didn't know that I was wrong or abnormal based on the way I was raised. But, so it's like I was acting, that was my behavior. But then once I saw, like, oh shit, like this things are inappropriate, this is what I'm doing, and these are inappropriate, then I change my behavior. So the real thing is that maybe somebody's behavior is not suiting you. Maybe they have a weird behavior, wrong behavior, whatever that you see that's like not a good fit for you. But it's kind of a great opportunity to grow with that person. These are things that we grow and learn. So, maybe somebody has inconsistent communication, but nobody's ever told them before, I need consistent communication. So this is a really good opportunity to like have that conversation and talk about, what does consistency look like to me? What does consistency look like to you? And then that way nobody's too needy, nobody's avoidant. The next is love bombing. And who here has ever been love bombed? Oh, God, it's wonderful for that moment before you realize that the wheels are coming off the bus. Ooh, but he said he got love bombed like this last weekend. Oh my God. Yeah. Love me some love bombing. Yeah, it's awful. It's terrible. But for that moment, it feels fucking amazing. And let's appreciate that, that feeling can exist. But inevitably, yes, it turns out to be weird. So love bombing is actually a really funny thing that you don't see until, like I said, the wheels come off the bus. Because at first you're like, this is amazing. I do deserve flowers every day and whatever it is that you want. Now, Alyssa's like, no, it's smothering. So For some people, love bombing feels amazing. And maybe that means that we need to look at the fact that maybe we don't feel like we got enough love in our life. For other people, it's smothering. And it's just like, are you kidding me? This is too much. Look at all these secure people saying that it's like smothering and they're feeling okay. Oh, Kat, you're amazing. I love these smothering people, or the people who are over it. Okay. So love bombing could also be like I've had some really, really sweet little guys who are 22 years old. It's their first relationship and they are just giving it 110%. And they don't even know that they're love bombing. It's just like the first time somebody wants to see them naked and they will do anything to make this last. And those guys are so cute. And so for them, they might not even know they're love bombing. They're just like putting in the effort. So again, it's a really good conversation. But of course, if it's like a 45-year-old, you might be like, okay, this is a little weird. So the pulling close, then disappearing. That is the oh gosh, that's like the avoidance, right? The avoidance situation. And so that's something to pay attention to. Now, we can work with people who have an avoidant attachment style, but they're going to have to do the work too. You can't just do it for them. They're going to have to do it for themselves. So again, we get another great conversation. And sometimes people just pull away because like they're overwhelmed in their own life and they don't realize it. And then they just disappear. So we'll see. Blame shifting and defensiveness. These go really well together. So the blame shifting is, I know, I agree, Heather. Can we just all wear tags? There just needs to be a sign that's like, this is my shit. But also, like, you're really going to love making out with me. And, can you balance the scale a little bit? Okay, so blame shifting. Um, I think this can also be a bit of the, oh God, it's totally skipping my mind right now, but I'll come back to it. So with blame shifting, this is like something happens, they messed up in some way, and they're going to put it on you, right? It's your fault. So these people are the victim. And again, that could just be that that person doesn't understand yet how to take responsibility. Oh yeah, Mark Ryan, we're going to be talking about BPD, folks. So, some people just don't know how to take responsibility yet. That's just a part of growing up. When you suffer from a low self-esteem or lack of confidence, you might really feel like, it's hard to take responsibility for what is going on that's your fault because any amount of culpability totally validates the fact that I think I'm a total piece of shit. So therefore, you're the problem. Does that make sense? So like if you're dating somebody and they're always shifting the blame, they might have had a parent that they were always in trouble. They never felt love. And so this person's just trying to get out of the line of fire and not really taking responsibility. Or even people who had a great childhood and maybe they had helicopter parents and they are just put on a pedestal. I have a client whose boyfriend is, his mom swears that the sun and moon rise with him. And so he's never wrong. Well, my mom would do the dishes for me, you know. If that's ever an argument that you have that his mom would do the dishes for you, a red flag. That is a conversation. Next is defensiveness. I love this one. This is my absolute favorite one. How many of y'all get defensive easily? I mean, like, real quick, you could get butt hurt. Yeah. Oh, I was raised in the most defensive family. Everybody has really freakishly low self-esteems and everybody's defensive and we're like, power girling the insults off each other. And, it's really interesting because when you feel that way, you take any little critique as though like a mortal wound kind of attack on your personality, Evangelina. Yeah, that was my house. So you take it as like this really deeply, wounding experience when really it's just somebody's like, hey, I don't like it when you do this little thing. So let's take a moment. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but that experience of just saying something, I don't like this. And then they respond. So how many of you have had that in a relationship where you share something small? Hey, I don't like the way, you use your tongue when we kiss, or I don't like the way you load the dishwasher. And you think this is just like a little thing. Does that person then, did they like kind of flip out at you? Have you had that experience where they get real hurt? Um, and it's a very unfair place to be put in because if I say, hey, I don't really like this thing, and then you get crazy defensive, now I'm just scrambling to like calm you down and make you feel better. And so defensiveness can be a super manipulation, because it really is like, ooh, I love Heather says, I try to ask for the positive do list. I love that. Yeah. So, defensiveness is really, it's a solid manipulation technique. It really is amazing. Whether or not they know they're doing it, it's spot on. Again, this also leads into not taking responsibility. How many of you guys have been with somebody that like just they can't take responsibility for their own actions? And they're just like, nothing's ever their fault. This is my mom to a T. The next one is emotional invalidation. So, emotional validation is when you're like, oh, I'm really sad about, this thing that happened to me, Dave. And the other person's like, oh, don't be sad. Don't cry. Well, I want to cry. These are my emotions. If somebody is invalidating your emotional experience, that to me is probably like the biggest red flag on the whole list is that if they can't validate that, yeah, it's no big deal. That is some bullshit. Like, I am allowed to feel however I feel about whatever. Yes, Carl, gaslighting was the word I was trying to think of earlier. So gaslighting also comes in with like the blame shifting as well. It's just like, oh, but you didn't say you wanted that. And it's like, no, I did. Read the text or whatever. So these kinds of things, the emotional invalidation really is not letting you be you. And the point of that is because it makes them uncomfortable. So therefore, you only can exist in the right amount of like shape and form that makes that person comfortable. Like life is long, it is messy, it is uncomfortable. You cannot live your entire life making sure somebody else is comfortable and by you like shoving down your emotions. So that might be something that the people pleasers in the group might notice. So the people pleasers, you guys would be the ones that, I don't want to do something, I don't like something, and then somebody invalidates it and is like, no, it's no big deal. And you're like, okay, it's no big deal because this person says. And so that's going to be a tricky one for you. Somebody who avoids difficult conversations. Anybody who just like can't be a grown up and talk to you and say like, hey, this is what's bothering me and be able to be present with you. That's really frustrating. And then the last one is stonewalling or shutting down. So, oh, my husband does this and it pisses me off. We'll be like in the middle of a conversation trying to get to the heart of the matter, and he'll just be like, mm-hmm. And he just shuts down. And I'm like, talk about like enraging me because it's just, we're in the middle. Yeah, gray rock. Like we're in the middle of the conversation. It's happening right now. My dad does this. Maybe this is why it really pisses me off. Yeah, I always have really good epiphanies about my own shit on these sessions. So if like I'm in a conversation with my dad and we get to a fight about something and I'll be like trying to work through it to like repair it afterwards, he'll always be like, whatever, I forgot about it already. I already forgot what we were talking about. And you're like, we're actively talking about it right now. Yeah, the silent treatment. Ooh, yeah, this stuff is rough. And it's really destabilizing for you because you're not going to believe your feelings and what you think is authentic to you. And it's like you've already made your list of values. You already know what's important to you. But then somebody's really shaking that foundation and it makes you feel insecure. Oh, thank you, Victorious. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the character red flags. This is like where we're going to be like really saying these are actually probably red flags. Um, so people who are cruel to you, cruel to animals. I once worked at a freaking like nature sanctuary where we rehabilitated birds of prey and bats and reptiles. Like we're there to do good for the earth and the animals. And this stupid jerk who worked there would go around pouring salt on slugs. Like for what reason? Just for cruelty. So that right there, red flag. This is a really important one, cruelty. So how many of you guys have been in a fight with somebody and they go for the jugular? They just like go for it. They know your Achilles heel. They are going to say the thing that's going to shred your guts apart. I've heard girls are better at this than boys. Like we know how to cut you deep. I don't know if you guys have had that experience. Everybody's suspiciously quiet. Uh, Next is contempt. So somebody who just you could tell they almost don't like you. Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody that you didn't even really like as a person? I have. Oh my God, yes. I totally have. So contempt is something where maybe you didn't like the person, they don't like you. Manipulation. How many of you guys have been manipulated in a relationship? Oh, I have such a good red flag story about manipulation. I was dating this guy that um I'm actually writing about this in this book that I'm writing a chapter for, but he was like, "Oh, I want to go take some ecstasy." And I'd never done ecstasy before. He was like, "I want to take some ecstasy." It was like 2 in the morning. I was like, "I don't want to do ecstasy." And he was like, "Well, if you don't take ecstasy with me, I'm gonna go fuck that chick." So I went and took ecstasy. That is how dumb I was when I was 25. Like I was like, well, I guess I'll do ecstasy so you don't fuck that girl. Red flag, Lark. So these kinds of things are super manipulations, right? And it's just so dumb because these are things that we could see. Dishonesty, catching people in a lie. No, Chica, he did not get with her. He got with another girl. Um, yes, but that's okay because I will be writing a story about Old Toothless. That's his name. You just learned a lot about him. Okay. So how many people have been with somebody who's like lied and lied and lied? And you're just like, I'm catching you in a lie after another. And it's like, oh my God, dude, that kind of thing is ridiculous. And it's really hard because you think like, is this somebody I could even trust? Is this real? And then you want to believe them. And the liars are tricky because you might really like them. You might get along with their values. They might, make good money and the sex is great and you love their families, but they lie to you. So it's very confusing. And so to me, lying is definitely a red flag. Lack of empathy. I'll keep sharing this actually. I'm sorry. Okay, so lack of empathy. This to me, ooh, this is a really, 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 really big one. If somebody can't empathize with you, if somebody can't see life from your perspective or from other people's perspective, you know, there's so many ways to be unempathetic, right? Maybe somebody drives and they're like, oh, homeless people are so disgusting, versus having empathy of like, that's incredibly sad. Yeah, lack of empathy is cruelty. Like, I'm so sad for somebody that doesn't have a home and it's cold and they're not, getting a steady diet. Like that kind of stuff breaks my heart. But if somebody were rude about it, um, yeah. So one thing that I do with couples, this is really kind of interesting with the empathy. I have like homework that I give couples, and it's kind of, there's two parts of the homework. So the first part is, maybe what does a partnership mean to you, or whatever the issue is they're working on. I give you guys a Google Doc and you go work with it. But the real homework, the real deal, isn't what each other is answering. It's how you guys are responding to the homework. And if one person is like, oh, you can't feel that way. That's not fair for you to feel that way. If they can't even believe that your perception is real, that's a red flag. So, it's like a sneaky way to find out, can they even have empathy for you? Next is boundary pushing. So, how many of you guys struggle with even just having a boundary to begin with? Right? Like even just like getting it up and running, and then you're like monitoring it and keeping it going. And then you'll might date somebody that will keep pushing a boundary. So when I was like online dating, um, yeah, when I was online dating, I remember a guy like asked me right away on like the first time we chatted, he was like, "Hey, are you cool with pictures?" And I was like, "No, I mean, you can send me a picture of like the sky or your dog, sure, but like do not send me a dick pic." So he sent me like a series of pictures of this road trip he just went on. And I was like, oh, pretty picture, pretty scenery, cute dog, whatever. Fucking dick pic right in the middle of it. And it was just like, I told you, bro. Like, I told you. And so to me, right there, I was like, no, we're not right for each other. Like, if you can't even do that for me, no. So I think paying attention to, people not pushing your boundaries or respecting your boundaries. I'm so sorry. Okay, next is entitlement. How many of you have dated princes or princesses? Just the world revolves around them. Um, yeah, I think entitlement is one that we can work with in a sense, because let's say that person did have those helicopter parents where everything they did was amazing. They're probably just walking around thinking they're amazing because that's like what was put in their belief system. So, that's kind of like a asterisk red flag, because it's like, yeah, yeah, a spoiled 18-year-old. Um, so it's something to think about, but if you have conversations and you're like, oh no, like everything should go your way. So entitlement looks like they always choose the restaurant, they always choose the movie, sex is always, well, you can't say that. Um, that was interesting. That was totally the patriarchy just coming into my brain. Okay. So, these are things that we need to be aware of. Is like, what is that person entitled to? Entitlement too is like is entitlement more about control? I don't think so. I think it's more about, I mean, I see how what you mean, like it's their control, but it's more like they don't fully understand that other people have another perspective, and that like maybe you don't want Thai, or maybe you don't want this. So people who are entitled are more likely to be the ones that push your boundaries, so it's more like they're just kind of, I don't know, not really sure. um yeah, entitlement's interesting, and I think that, yeah, and it can lead to some behaviors, but I don't know. I'm going to still say actors. Yeah, only children could be entitled, not every one of them, but if they never had to learn how to share their toys or do anything. My neighbor across the street, she's so sweet, but damn, I've never seen anybody given so much. Okay, the next is just repeated disrespect. Just repeated, just going on and on and on, where they like talk shit about you or your family, and they do a whole host of things. And if your partner just doesn't respect you, then what's the point? So now we're going to get into the good stuff. Why do we ignore red flags? Um, yeah, why do we ignore red flags? Because it's not, not because we're naive, it's because we want love. Let's just talk about that for a little bit. We all want love. We all want love, and it is so hard to find it. Yes, Mike, because she was hot. Oh my God, 100%. The sex was great. He was rich. I mean, there's reasons to stay. Sometimes you could be pretty unhappy in a relationship, but you're like, I don't know, I just don't want to go through the work of it. So we stay for all these reasons. Um, Maybe you don't want to be alone. Maybe it took you so long to meet that person. You're like, fuck, I'm not going to go through that again. Maybe you don't want to be too picky. Do I have anybody in here who's like worried about being too picky? I'm interested in that. Because some people feel like, oh, I should just be able to take whatever I can get. Yeah, and we don't want to be picky. And I can tell you, after 15 years of marriage to a wonderful human, it's like a perfect person doesn't exist. We are all flawed and annoying and smell. And no matter what we do, it's never going to be perfect. Um, we want the story to be true. How many of you guys have just like this romantic story in your life and we want to like fulfill the prophecy that we were promised by Disney to have this great love where we can, wake each other up with love's, true kiss or whatever. All this stuff. Oh, Baba Tunde, hello. Um, yeah, all this. So yeah, hopeless romantic. Oh, I love me a hopeless romantic. One of my clients, he has the sweetest story where like his grandparents met in middle school and then his parents met in high school and everybody's still married. And so he felt like, not consciously, but he felt like he was just like owed like this same kind of love in high school. Like he was like, shouldn't it be here? Like, because that's what he was raised to see is like, oh, you go to school and you get your true love. Um, we might confuse intensity with intimacy. So that one's something for you to take a deep, hard look with yourself. You know, is this intensity intimacy? And I've definitely confused a bunch of stuff in the past. Like, I don't know. This guy I dated was like so good at sex. It was amazing. That like I couldn't hear what he was saying. Like I honestly didn't know him as a person because I would just like stare at him like, oh my God, this gorgeous guy wants to bang me. Like I didn't hear a word he said until like months later. And then I was like, oh, you're horrible. But like I couldn't hear it. And so, I was definitely confusing how great everything was in the sack with like, oh, this is love, when it turns out like he was actually a terrible person. Um, we are hopeful, like this time it's going to be different. Ooh, this is a good one. This time it's digmatized. I've never heard that before. I was digmatized. He had this long hair. He looked like somebody on the cover of like a romance novel. Anyways, so now I'm so sidetracked by digmatized. Okay. Hoping this time will be different. So, how many of you guys have repeated a relationship pattern? Maybe it's a person with a certain kind of job, a certain kind of style, a certain kind of attitude. And it's so fascinating because we're always look at how many thumbs up there where everybody's like, yep. Um, because we have this story, it's two parts. One, like we want to succeed, right? So like I'm gonna succeed, I'm gonna get this person. But the other side is like, in a way, we try to fix our future people or our current people as a means to like heal the past. It's like a really interesting thing, even though logically it doesn't make sense, but it's like some of us are going out there having relationship issues, trying to heal our relationships with our parents. So it's just, this pattern that we get into. We learn to doubt our gut. I love this conversation. How many of you guys don't trust your gut? I think this is amazing. So the gut thing is so funny. There's a book, if any of you guys get to it, it's called The Gift of Fear. And it's really about how like humans, we're the only species that are like have a gut and we don't listen to it. And it's so funny, like all the time. One time, oh Pam, I love your doggy. So cute. So one time, I was like going out and my bike was in the backyard and my gut was like, put your bike inside, it's gonna get stolen. And I was like, shut up, brain, you don't know anything. And I went out and I came back and my bike was stolen. And like that moment, I was like, nope, I'm always gonna trust my gut. Um, oh, Rose, I'm sorry you had that experience to not trust it. Yeah, trust your gut. So the book is called The Gift of Fear. If you guys are interested, it's a short read, but it's really good. It's about just like how to practice trusting your gut. I have a simple technique that works. It's really silly, but it's a really, really good technique. So I think knowing our body sensations is a really important one. So how many of you guys get really hungry but are like, "Oh, I'm going to ignore that hunger for a minute." Or like you really have to pee but you're going to like go run an errand real quick, right? These kinds of things. This is how I've learned to trust my gut. It's so simple. But sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, I got to go do something." And then I notice I'm hungry. And I'm like, shut up, body. I'm going to go do something. I know what's right. But I notice that once I have the thought 2 or 3 times, I'm hungry, then I'm like, oh, okay. And by doing that practice and then eating, by doing that practice, I've now learned to understand like, oh, my signals are telling me something. If I need to pee before I even get in the car, I should go pee, right? Because inevitably you're going to be out and you're not going to find a bathroom. So it's a simple practice. It's called the gift of fear, but it's a simple practice to kind of just get trusting yourself because we think we know better than our bodies, but we don't. Okay. And then the next one, the reasons why we might ignore red flags is because we've learned to put others first. So it could just be good old fashioned people pleasing that you're like, I don't know. Oh, thanks, Kristen. Just good old fashioned people pleasing where it's like, I want to make excuses for other people's, feelings matter more than mine, their desires matter more than mine. So, that's kind of a big thing. Okay, so how are you guys feeling right now? Everything good? Oh, thank you, Mark. With red flags. Is this an okay class for you? Excellent. Okay. Oh, Babatunde. He has the best name. I love saying his name. Okay. So, oh, Mike, you didn't know you were a people pleaser until now. Oh, sure. I'll put the notes back up, but in a minute. So one of the thoughts is how do we know what's a red flag? So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. It's called the yellow flag, or it's like called the middle ground or whatever. I just made this up. But basically what it is we're going to kind of learn there's something, I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not trying to, throw this person away just yet, but I need to trust my gut and understand like something's kind of working in here. So this is actually a practice that you can do with anybody, everybody, friends, family, and I will put those notes back up. Okay. So again, not everything uncomfortable is a deal breaker. Some things feel scary because they're unfamiliar. So think about this. If you're anxiously attached, if you're somebody who's anxiously attached and needs a lot of reassurance, and you date somebody who's securely attached, they're not avoidant, they're fine. They can text you once a day. Life is great. They just don't need that constant validation. It might feel really scary at first because you're like, oh shit, I don't know what to do with this. Because you're used to people love bombing you or being equally, anxiously attached. So, some examples of yellow flags: social awkwardness. You know, we're all weirdos, everybody has things, so let's not go dumping our socially awkward, people. Different communication styles, emotional experience. So, we got to teach people how to treat us, a slower pace. So you might think that, oh, this person's moving slowly, they don't like me. When really that person is like doing the slow burn, really wants it to work out. And so knows like, oh, in the beginning, there's all those chemicals, and I don't want to fall into that trap. So I'm going to go slow. So that's actually fantastic. But it's like, ooh, kind of, scary. Maybe they're a little shy, and you guys might have different love languages, which is great. Just do the little love language test and then, do it right with each other. And then the next is attachment style differences. And the attachment style differences is going to be the hardest. Well, Bob Hope, we put it there in other ways because I don't think an attachment style by itself is a red flag. It's the behaviors that we're seeing that's what you're going to know, right? You're not going to quite know somebody's avoidant. You're going to be like, oh, I don't know. They don't text me back immediately. So it's more about the behaviors, not the label. Okay, so what we do is we test for yellow flags. So what we want to do is choose something small but real. And again, this is like friends. You can do this with family. You can do this with coworkers. This is super simple. So choose something really small, like how you like to communicate, a time boundary, a comfort level, a personal preference. Just something small where it's like, hey, I only like to text after work hours, or I'm actually not comfortable meeting your children yet. Whatever. Say something small, and then what we want to do is pay attention to the response. So, not just the words they're saying, we want to pay attention to the response. So, if they say things like, thanks for telling me, thanks for telling me that boundary, I really appreciate it. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. If they listen to you without interrupting, if they ask questions to understand, if they want to clarify, they want to know a little bit more. Oh, yes, perfect. And then if they respect your boundaries, if you put up a boundary and they respect you, and if they make an effort to adjust their behavior. So these all show emotional safety with willingness to repair. So yellow flag responses to watch out for, right? So now we're saying, let me just back up. I want to make sure we understand this. You're going to do something real small, just real small, like, hey, I don't like when you do X, Y, Z. It's just a personal preference. I don't like that. What we're going to do is see how they take it. Thank you for telling me. They can listen without interrupting. They validate how you feel. They respect your boundary. They make the effort. Okay, great. We're in green flag zone, right? This is repair oriented. We are in green flag zone. But now, we do this, we are going to watch out for how they respond. And now we're going to go into red flag territory. If you're like, babe, I really don't like the way you, I don't know, text me 100 times a day. And they become very defensive. Okay. So now we know like a behavior. If they minimize your concern, again, behavior, we know that they're not validating your feelings. If they blame you for bringing it up, like, oh, how could you even say this to me? If they make jokes to dismiss the issue, my husband did that to me once with something like a rather big issue, and he made a joke about it, and I was like, oh, hell no. Because they shouldn't be like laughing at what you're going through, or, ignoring the request entirely. If they're, oh yeah, snarky behavior. Oh, yeah, Alyssa, it's just the way I am. Fuck that guy. If somebody says, oh, it's just the way I am, run for the hills. If somebody wants to be an asshole because it's just the way they are, let them be an asshole alone. So yellow flags aren't deal breakers, but it's like something to be aware of like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little triggered, a little issue here, and I need to bring it up. Also, these things are amazing to do at beginnings of relationships. This is amazing because it sets the tone for the relationship that you guys can have difficult conversations and that you guys can repair and that you guys can like adjust and respect and want the best for each other. So it's really great to kind of like do something early in the relationship. And remember, your body is a data source. So a red flag is not just what someone does, it's what happens inside of you. So you can always check in with yourself. Do I feel safe? Do I feel respected? Do I feel like myself? Do I feel calm or constantly activated? Or do I feel valued or evaluated? And I think this is super important to know because remember, our bodies know. Our bodies know, like, oh, this is super unpleasant. Um, So earlier, somebody asked about BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And I just want to broach this subject. So I've had quite a few clients that have had partners who have had real mental health issues. And we are not shaming anybody for having mental health issues, right? Like I suffer from depression. I suffer from anxiety. Like we can all have mental health issues. That's not the issue. The problem is I've had numerous people whose like girlfriend or boyfriend is like, "Oh, he's fully diagnosed bipolar but won't take his meds." I've heard this so many times. Actually diagnosed BPD and won't take her meds. The won't to me, that's the biggest red flag. Now, it's one thing if maybe like these particular meds give them side effects that don't work with them, but they're willing to like talk to their doctor and try other meds. That's a green flag, right? Like, let's work through it together. It takes a little bit, you know, but somebody that won't do it. So, similarly, with just any relationship coaching, I get people who come in who really, really want to like stick together and be in the relationship and make the relationship work. And they're doing all the work and their partner's not doing anything. Their partner won't lift a finger. Their partner won't go to therapy or read the book or do the homework. And you can't fix a relationship by yourself, you know? Now, if you're staying in the relationship because you need to, because like you've got kids or you don't work or whatever, that's fine. But you can definitely get to a different point of acceptance of like, this is just the way the relationship is. And then you can kind of like step back a little bit and not take so much on. There's so many directions we could go in this conversation. So this is I'm trying to think about what I want to do because we're kind of at a good stopping point unless anybody wants to do breakout rooms. I'm not going to put you in breakout rooms yet. I'm just taking a temperature. Does anybody want to do breakout rooms? Or are we good? Do we want to call it an early night? All right. You got one yes. So Brandy, you and I can do a breakout room. Okay. Nobody leave. Nobody leave. We're not doing anything yet. I'm just kind of getting a temperature. Okay. So here's what I want to do is before anybody leaves, I just want to remind you that at the top of the document, there are 3 links. So one is if you want to work one-on-one. The other is if you want to come with me to Costa Rica, we actually have 3 rooms left. So if anybody wants to come to Costa Rica to work on boundaries in June on the beach, I hope you join me. And then the third is for women, what we're working on in February is stop carrying what isn't ours. So letting go of the way maybe your mom nitpicks you or the way that friends leave you out, like whatever. And we're going to be doing the book, The Let Them Theory. And so this is really fun in the class. And Atika put all the amazing links there for anybody who wants to join it. And no, Costa Rica is co-ed. and it's going to be fun. And so we're going to be working on boundaries, but also we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff like you don't have to participate in all of it. You can do whatever you want. You can sit by the pool the whole time. But if you want, we are going to go like deep sea fishing and canyoneering and all this stuff. Oh, Victorious, I hope you do join us. So Costa Rica is going to be totally fun. Okay, so real quick before we go to breakout rooms, I'll tell you what breakout rooms are, and then we can do a little bit of one-on-one coaching. Breakout rooms are where we go into separate rooms, and I'm going to give you some conversation starters, and we're going to kind of share some red flag stories and just maybe talk through it. Yes, men do need the support too. It's true. We all need support. Okay, so I hope to actually start a men's community, but one step at a time because it's a lot of work. Okay, so in the breakout rooms, we will talk about our experiences with red flags. But first off, is anybody kind of going through something with somebody that's like a red flag that you want to talk through one-on-one with me before we do breakout rooms? And actually, at that point, I am going to stop the recording so that people can come on. And so, thank you guys.